This is part 3 of the video, Jewish Racism in the Federal Court. Now, my case of discrimination. In the summer of 1998, I was 37 years old and hired as a teacher in the New York City public schools as a social studies teacher. In my summer session, I received all satisfactory ratings. In the fall of 1998, I was a certified social studies teacher teaching at Clara Barton High School and received all satisfactory ratings, 3 of them. While in my first semester teaching, I coached the winners of the New York City division of the academic competition, We the People. Of 18 students, 15 were black, 2 were Hispanic, and 1 was ethnic Chinese. As an aside, to certain groups out there, inner city kids, no matter what their race, are just as capable as suburban kids of being smart and doing well in school. The problem with the inner city lies in the lack of will of the government to ensure these kids get a decent education by not isolating the troublemakers, or it lies in some other nefarious government goal, say to ensure a large section of our population is shortchanged and doesn't have the academic skills to think and do for themselves. In February 1999, the start of my second full semester teaching, due to falling enrollment at Barton, I was transferred to Bushwick High School to take up the place of an uncertified teacher. The protection of certified teacher was required by the collective bargaining agreement. Principal Renee Mauskopf, a Jew, would not let me transfer into Bushwick. As was common practice in the New York City Board of Education at the time, in order to increase the numbers of non-white teachers, blacks and Hispanics with no teaching certificate were permitted to teach if they had a 4-year college degree, which in New York is not hard to get, and they spoke Spanish or Haitian Creole French. These non-whites were given temporary city teaching licenses to teach bilingual or English as a second language ESL classes. Thereafter, the first semester teaching, the black and Hispanic teachers, when possible, were given all regular English-speaking classes so that another black or Hispanic uncertified teacher could be given a job as an ESL or bilingual teacher. I call this practice lingual musical chairs. As soon as I arrived at Bushwick, the Jewish principal, Pollock, immediately reshuffled the schedules of all the uncertified black and Hispanic social studies teachers so that each would teach 1 bilingual or ESL class. That accomplished, Renee Pollock advised the New York City Board of Education and the Brooklyn High School superintendent that all social studies positions in Bushwick required an ESL or bilingual teacher, and that as an English speaker, I wasn't qualified to teach at school. Yep, that's what happened, and it continued to happen into the first decade of the millennium. And that was okay with New York State and the Republican Governor Pataki, and okay with the EEOC and the federal government, even under George W. Bush. I mentioned George W. Bush because a large portion of the so-called conservative white people in the United States are under the mistaken notion that if you keep voting for rich Republicans, that somehow the nation is going to turn back the hordes of Hispanic, Arabic, and non-white immigrants, and miraculously all government aid to the poor in the inner cities is going to be cut off. We had wealthy Republican presidents in Ronald Reagan and George Bush's 1 and 2. Reagan was the first president to institute the illegal amigos doctrine in turning a blind eye to undocumented workers from all nationalities staying in this country without permission. At no time did illegal entrance to this country decrease, and at no time was any wall, in any real sense of the word, erected. Socially conservative and states' rights white people out there, get with the program. Other than getting rich off your labor and our national resources, the rich white elite don't want anything to do with you or your progeny unless they can jump in bed with you guys for a tryst. The filthy rich are solely interested in thinking of more ways to get rich off our country's resources and off your labor, and with the redistribution of wealth bailout to the money changers, the labor of our children. Bush, too, even publicly thanked Joyce Coppin of the New York City Board of Education, the great ethnic cleanser of white Christian teachers from the New York City public schools, for bringing in more minorities to teach in the New York City public schools. Where was the Republican Party for all us white Christian folks who were certified teachers who could not get jobs while uncertified black and Hispanic teachers were being employed? Well, tell you what, here's what they were doing under Bush. The federal government was doling out $2,963,402 between May 1st, 2002 and May 1st of 2004 to the New York City Board of Education so they could recruit and train 250 Hispanic people from Puerto Rico to teach at the New York City public schools. Hello, that's spending $118,536 on each of those Puerto Ricans to take a job from me and people like me while giving Puerto Ricans a salary while they prepare to take a job. It's like how our government subsidized Latin American countries to grow asparagus, which put American farmers out of business. It's like when Bush II, in 2004, running for re-election before the mortgage crisis bailout happened, gave a speech where he took credit for the home ownership of blacks being at an all-time high. Bush II, of course, took great born-again Christian glee that he could take credit for giving blacks and others the illusions of owning homes they could never afford, while at the same time he was ensuring the money changers in our society, the bankers, the mortgage brokers, the security packagers, the derivative packagers, the real estate developers, and the cookie-cutter pulp house building owners, extremely wealthy. To you dupes who bought the particle board wood houses for $350,000 to $800,000, the Levittown plywood houses have to be rewalled every 30 to 40 years. Exactly how long before it takes before the outside of your house, which is made of chipped wood and glue, is going to disintegrate. Yep. Keep voting for rich white folks, especially rich white folks whose allegiance is to their religious groups first. Did you know the largest group of legal Hispanic immigrants is Mormon? Know why? Because Mormons send their young men to be missionaries to Latin America to get married to Latinas. Once back in America, the returning Mormon couples get visitors' visas for their wives' male relatives so Latin American males can come here and marry their Mormon U.S. citizen sisters and cousins. People complained about the Reverend Sun Myung Moon and his scheme to have South Koreans become immigrants by marriage, yet no one says anything about the Mormon fast-tracked immigration plan. To the white states' rights and conservatives out there who want your country back, Romney sure as heck ain't gonna erect any wall. Alright. Next, I was sent to Sheepshead Bay High School after I was turned away from Bushwick to replace an uncertified social studies teacher, Jewish female Robin Kovat, who was in her 40s. Robin originally got a job as an English substitute teacher at Sheepshead Bay High School. The Jewish principal and the Jewish principal Susan Friedman and the Jewish assistant principal of social studies Elaine Gorin Farron McCartney so loved their fellow Jewish female Kovat that they arranged it so Kovat would teach social studies at Sheepshead Bay High School, even though Kovat was an uncertified teacher in social studies. And that is where I came in. Now, Principal Susan Friedman was no stranger to the allegations of job discrimination. A decade prior, Susan Friedman was allegedly given racial preference in hiring at the New York City Board of Education, at a New York City Board of Education school district. The case is reported. I don't have the site offhand. It's around. Anyway, A black female brought the suit of racial discrimination against the Board of Ed. In reality, the attorney should have brought a suit alleging Jewish favoritism, but as one non-Jewish attorney I sought out about my discrimination case said, no attorney would dare touch a case with a 10-foot pole because it would automatically be dismissed by a Jewish judge. Susan Friedman's husband at the time happened to be working for or was under contract with the Board of Ed at the time, and he had got that she had gotten the position in the lawsuit, which was dismissed anyway. This is kind of odd since the Board of Ed is supposed to have strict rules and regulations against nepotism and hiring. All right. Just so everyone knows, Jews have been preferentially hired at the New York City Board of Education for decades. Take a look back at the black community's takeover of the New York City Ocean Hill Brownsville School District in 1967 or 1968. Diane Ravitch wrote a book about it, and Professor Walter Stafford published a research paper that included the events entitled The Struggle of New York City's Black Civil Society. In the later part of the 1960s, the community blacks got sick and tired of seeing their white Jewish communities school teachers who got draft deferments avoid dying while their young black men in their prime were coming back in body bags from Vietnam. Note that Jewish Mayor for Life Michael Bloomberg got a few draft deferments, as did the Jewish New York City Department of Education Chancellor Joel Klein. Now, these blacks, not being afraid to stand up against the Jewish New York gentry, who got draft deferments and government employees, the black community decided to take over the school district offices and schools and kick out all the whites and white Jewish teachers. In mob action, they ejected the white Jewish teachers and wrote letters to the draft board to advise them the Jews no longer had a job or draft deferment. If anyone has copies of the local TV broadcast from that volatile time, I think I think America should see them so that everyone under 50 can understand the commitment it takes to take back one's government from a plutocratic, economic, and ethnic interest group.